television that's close to home. Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host for the day, Jake Schaff, tackling all of the biggest news from right here in West Bloomfield and all across the four communities. A lot of big stuff to get into today, the biggest, of course, being Election Day, which is quickly approaching here in the four communities. But a lot of voters have already been making their way to the polls thanks to the early voting process. This past Saturday, early voting hours began in West Bloomfield, right at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. I had a chance to visit the voting center yesterday, and after having spoken to some of the election workers as well as some of the voters and taking a look at everything for myself, I can attest that everything is off to a very busy start.
So we now have early voting, which is a fairly new method for people to vote with. And we have seen for this election, people are absolutely engaging at almost record numbers. We have had each day since it began on Saturday, more people than we had all 9 days in either of the other two elections that early voting was available. So we are seeing an increase in the numbers participating with early voting. I don't believe that will necessarily translate into an increase in voter numbers. I think we're going to probably see the anticipated turnout for this election. However, I think we'll see a change in how they're voting. We are seeing a decrease from 20 in the number of absentee ballots cast, but some of that is because in 2020 was the height of the pandemic. So you're seeing some that are going to shift back to their precinct and some that are going to actually participate in early voting. And I based on the numbers we're seeing in early voting, a lot are finding that that's an engaging way to get involved.
I'm seeing a lot of people turning in their absentee ballots. We've gotten probably about 14 or 15,000 back already, and early voting is having a great turnout so far, about 800 or 900 people per day. We weren't expecting this high of a turnout, so that's a really great thing.
What do you think are some of the biggest contributing factors as to why these numbers are going up right now?
More engagement. People are more involved. They want to be part of the process. They want to get their vote out there.
I really liked the option of voting early. It kind of gives you flexibility on, and not just limited to just one day. I, in particular, think it was nice because I had to work all week, the week of election week, so I think it's great. It was crowded, but that is a good thing. So, yeah, I really liked it.
I think the flexibility of having a week or so before the election to choose which day is most convenient for you as opposed to just one day. I think that does nothing except to encourage young voters to get out and vote. So I think it's a really positive thing.
It's a wonderful option for if anyone's going out of town, if anybody works a long shift, a nurse, a firefighter, anyone who can't get there on election day. It provides a great opportunity for it. But you know, with this entire election, Jake, what I would tell people, pack your patience. And the election workers are here to make sure that everyone who is here in time does get to vote. So even if they're in that line at 4:30 and there's still an hour line, they will get to vote.
Debbie is absolutely right. Everybody will get their chance to vote. It just might take a little bit of time to get there. The wait times yesterday were as long as 2 hours. So my advice would be get there as early as you can. And as Debbie said, pack your patience. Early voting will be continuing until Sunday, November 3rd, and the hours, once again, are from 8:30 to 4:30. The only exception is on Thursday, October 31st, Halloween, when the hours are from 12 to 8. So plenty of opportunities to still get out there and cast your vote. West Bloomfield students recently had a great opportunity to learn about a different type of culture. West Bloomfield Middle School 7th graders recently took a very meaningful journey into Hindu culture with a trip to the Hindu temple in Canton. This was all done as part of the Religious Diversity Journeys program, where students learned firsthand about the beliefs and practices of Hinduism. The immersive experience included conversations with faith leaders, a yoga session, a taste of some traditional Indian food, and even trying on some traditional Indian dresses. You can see the photos right now if you're watching on Civic Center TV. All these kids were having so much fun learning about this different culture. And this field trip is part of a broader initiative to promote understanding and respect for different and diverse religious traditions. If you want to take a look at the photos again for yourself, you can check them out on their Facebook page at West Bloomfield Schools to see all the fun these kids were having. There's going to be a bit of a late start tomorrow for the West Bloomfield School District. The buses will be running an hour later tomorrow morning, but students will still be dismissed at their regular time. And a couple of other important dates for parents to keep in mind throughout the next couple weeks of this school year. There will be no school for students on Tuesday, November 5th on account of Election Day, and there will be another late day on Wednesday, November 13th. It's important to get this information out there so parents can adjust their schedule and they can plan accordingly. If you want to see the full schedule for these dates, you can check them out on their website, wbsd.org/calendar, to get all of the information you need to plan accordingly. Halloween is quickly approaching in the 4 communities, and I hope everyone is getting ready for a spooky, fun-filled evening with the Sports Club of West Bloomfield for their 3rd annual Halloween Bash. On Wednesday, October 30th, tomorrow, kids are going to be invited to enjoy music, food, a costume contest, arts and crafts, and of course, trick-or-treating. It's just $20 per child, and each participant is going to be leaving with so many goodies, including a pumpkin, snacks, a water bottle, and a t-shirt. It's the perfect opportunity for parents to take their night off while their kids have an absolute blast. Spaces are limited, so make sure to RSVP by calling 248-626-9880 with an extension of 107. And if you want to learn more about this event, you can check it out on their Facebook page at Sports Club Detroit. It's almost time for Ghosts and Goblins to take the streets for Halloween fun. Many local communities have set their official trick-or-treat hours for the big day of October 31st. In West Bloomfield, the suggested trick-or-treating hours are from 6 to 8 p.m. Kego Harbor and Sylvan Lake have them set from 6 to 7:30. And in Orchard Lake, trick-or-treaters are set from 5 to 8 p.m. Remember, homeowners who wish to participate in trick-or-treating must leave their porch lights on to signal that they are handing out treats. And for those who choose to trick-or-treat, make sure you wear bright costumes, carry flashlights, and be wary of traffic. Got to make sure everyone stays safe out there. For safety tips and information, please visit the National Safety Council's website, nsc.org, to find out more information. Lots of fun times are going to be coming up very, very soon for the kids at Scotch Elementary. If you remember on the program a few weeks ago, Greshko Elementary unveiled their brand new playground system, and an identical one is going to be opening up tomorrow for the Scotch Elementary kids as well, with a ribbon cutting ceremony at 4:30. Our very own Kevin McIntosh is out at Scotch Elementary live to tell us more about what he sees and this great event. Kevin, how are you this morning?
Doing good, Jake. Thank you, man. We are here live at Scotch Elementary where the excitement is building, as you can see behind me, for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the brand new Scotch Playground. Fantastic new play area behind me. It's designed with fun for all ages in mind. And it's very identical, like you said, to the playground that's now popular that was recently released at Gretschko Elementary as well. It's got something for everyone. From this amazing slide that you see behind us, they call that Apple Island. And they also have a unique music garden and other inclusive play spaces, Jake. So very, very cool and inclusive play area. You see the kids having fun right now. The ribbon cutting ceremony kicks off tomorrow, Wednesday, October 30th, 4:30 p.m. So bring your friends, family, and neighbors so you can be a part of this celebration. The official ribbon cutting ceremony photo will actually take place at 4:45, just slightly after the actual opening of the ceremony. But find out more directly on the Facebook page, West Bloomfield Schools, for more information, Jake.
Great information, Kevin. And yeah, it already looks like kids are having so much fun on the playground. I can't wait for this all to be unveiled. Thank you so much. Kevin McIntosh, live from Scotch Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of great stuff. And like I said, when I was out on the playground just a few weeks ago, I was so jealous of all the fun these kids were having. And I kind of wish that this was the playground I had when I was a kid. But great work for all of the developers, and best of luck to all the kids. They're going to have so much fun at this playground. And we have plenty of more stories to get into right after the break. Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know. When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Bringing you stories and memories from Sylvan Lake, Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, tackling all of the biggest stories and events right here in West Bloomfield and all across the 4 communities. Halloween, of course, is going to be later this week, but there is another important observance that's going to be taking place on that very same day, October 31st, and that is Diwali. The Sri Balaji Temple of Great Lakes will be holding their Diwali celebration on October 31st. Diwali, or Deepavali as it's also called, is the Hindu festival of lights, which symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. Here to tell us more about this celebration, we have one of the organizers for the Diwali celebration, Sundar Parthasarathi. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me in.
Happy to have you with us, and really interested to hear a lot more about this celebration. What can you tell us about the Diwali celebration coming up?
As you mentioned, this is the celebration of win of good over the evil, or having the knowledge over ignorance. So we celebrate that to make sure that we remind ourselves we always been in the good. That's when you can always win. And we want to pass down the battle to the other kids too.
Great. A lot of important messages in there. How important is Diwali to the Hindu culture?
It's very important festival for us. Like say, if you take it for a culture of Christian culture, where they call it as a Christmas is an important event where the family comes up together. Same thing. Diwali is the day where, as a family, we all come together. We all prep for a month before. We prepare sweets. We buy the fireworks is a major part of it. So the kids will be super excited for the fireworks and stuff, and the families comes together to celebrate it and along with the friends and families around. It's a big thing for people in India and with the people who follow in the Hindu culture.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a great celebration. A lot of great stuff happening at this event. How does the Diwali process go, and what will the event be like for everyone that will be attending?
Yes, it's going to be the event like starts from 6.
Okay, it looks like we've got a slight.
Puja for.
Oh no, we're good. Sorry, if you could
I
repeat
think
the
I lost
question.
you. Yeah, that's something. Yeah. I think you were asking about what's going to be the events on that day, 6
Yes.
p.m. to 8 p.m. in the temple, right? So, as we said, its first thing starts with the prayer and praying the Lord Goddess Mahalakshmi, where we that's our major thing to start on the evening. So once that's been done, then we will be having fireworks for the kids. So that's going to be the place where all the kids around the community comes together, so that, as we always say, it's going to be fun when you enjoy it together with more people. So all kids and around the community will be coming around and having the fireworks around there in the parking lot and Balaji Temple of Great Lakes, and followed by the great dinner feast.
Wow, a lot of great stuff. Sounds like it's going to be an absolute blast. Sundar Parthasarathi is joining us right now on the Splash Live, telling us all about the Diwali celebration coming up right here at the Sri Balaji Temple in West Bloomfield. Now, Sundar, seeing a lot of these stuff that's taking place at the temple, what are some of your personal favorite parts of the celebration?
Of this Diwali celebration, you mean?
Yes.
For me, is the fireworks, because the major thing is because I have two young kids. So they really wait for this day to be there because they spend time with their friends out there. And then almost like last 8+ years, they are been waiting for every year. Oh, when is Diwali day? Are we going there on that particular day for doing the fireworks? So they gear up and go and make sure that they do that. And Balaji Temple is so grateful that they kind of even give free for the kids, so it's not going to be charged for them. So they just make sure the whoever kids come first in first, how much tower they have, they just give it to them so that they can enjoy. So the kids are super excited, and that makes us also excited to be looking around them.
Absolutely. It's that children's spirit that really helps to liven everything up. And it sounds like that the kids are playing a very important role for this celebration, as their excitement really helps everyone's mood to really feel the energy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the high energy. You can see the same energy. Like as you said in the first, it's been falling on the same Halloween day. Now my kids are wondering whether to go with Halloween or to the Diwali event. And but the good thing is falling on the same day, so the celebration can be across and being the case. So as you see on the Halloween, kids are getting super excited for getting to the candies, moving across the house, but trick or treat. Think in the same way, put in the same line, and think in the put the Hindu culture there, and see, oh, they are celebrating good over evil, and then they're doing the fireworks. Fireworks is meant for that. When it bursts, it's saying that we are bursting out the evil out, and the light comes out of the fireworks, which that's the good sun finally that stays on top. So that's what the inner meaning of the fireworks, and that's where the kids really going to enjoy that for sure.
I would imagine so. I mean, fireworks just make everything so much better. I mean, it's fire in the sky. It's always beautiful to see. Now, Sundar, what have you seen from throughout the community as they rally around this celebration?
So as I said, like we at least every year we see about 300, 400, 500 people keep growing as in the Balaji temple as we've seen from the years since I've been associated with. So with that, I see a lot of people get more and more energized to come in and participate in the event because it's more a kid-driven event, and that's helped them, and that's helped more older people also get involved into it, and then that helps them to speak about the culture and take the few points what they have done in the temple on that day, talk to their kids and take them to that and tell about the story behind why we are celebrating to it, and that helps the kids to grow up in the right way so that they can be the right spirit and right hearted people, so they know, being with good is what matters. So those all small details hidden to it, so that's why we see people growing numbers as every year comes, and that helps us.
That's great to see. Sundar, I got one more question for you before we let you go. You've talked about how much things have grown in the past few years. Do you see them continuing to grow as the years go on?
I'm so confident that yes, it's going to be continuing to go on because, as I said, all the matters is the kids really enjoy it. Because, as you said, fireworks really makes it, and as once the kids are being there, and it makes the parents also to be come in and then make sure it gives a platform for them to enjoy and express themselves there. And every year they meet new kids and they make new friends, and that makes them to come every year after every year. So that's pretty much the same for my own kids. So I can take from my own kids where they started 8 years back and where they are right now, and how they really prepare themselves for this day. I think I feel the same for every other parent, I believe.
That's great to hear. Best of luck with the ceremony, and of course, happy Diwali to you. Sundar Parthasarathi joining us on the Splash Live. Thank you so much for your time today.
From our side, from Sri Balaji Temple of Great Lakes, we want to extend our wishes to everybody. Happy Diwali to everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely, and happy Diwali right back at you. The Diwali celebration taking place on October 31st, so be on the lookout for that event. The West Bloomfield Laker football team continues their run, and they are headed to the playoffs. The team will be hitting the road on Friday night, going out to Novi to take on the Wildcats for their first playoff game. Tyler Keefe from our Civic Center TV sports team took a few minutes to reflect on the 4-5 regular season and look forward to the postseason with head coach Zach Hilbers.
Tyler Keefe alongside head coach Zach Hilbers as the Lakers are heading toward playoff time this week, kicking off the postseason against Novi on Friday night. Looking back at the regular season, 4-5 record after a tough loss last week at Roseville. Let's begin with that and what was a really offensive matchup, kind of how we expected things to be against a team like that.
Yeah, they're a pretty talented group, and it was probably an awesome game to watch as a spectator. But, when it kind of, you lose one at the end of the game like that, it always leaves a little bit of sour taste in your mouth. So, hopefully we use that as a little bit of motivation looking ahead to this week.
Yeah, looking at the end of that game, because you're going through that second half, you're down by a couple of scores. You got to fight back. It seems like Roseville kind of has your number at a certain point in there, and then you turn the tide. Take us through what you think was the difference maker to get your team back into that game and ultimately force overtime.
I really just continuing to believe. Like, we knew that we still had a chance in that one, and we just had to stand and fight and really not back down. That was our whole message, that we could come back, we could take the lead, and we did take the lead. Obviously, we just we spotted them too many points early to come away with a win.
Looking back on this season, again, 4-5 record overall. We've been through in the past few weeks the OAA Red Division schedule, with the Lakers ultimately ending at the bottom of a really tough division. But all that you've gone through these last 9 weeks has set up what's going ahead, and hopefully several weeks ahead in the Division I playoffs. What lessons do you think the team's taken to heart over the last couple of weeks that gets them primed for a really strong performance these next few weeks in playoff time?
Well, I guess one of the frustrating things about playing a really tough schedule is you have games like last week and early in the year against Adams, and you're right there at the very end of the game against a good team, and you could have won and you didn't. And you probably feel a whole lot better if you get those decisions and you're 6-3. But, playing teams like those and the other teams in our league and Birmingham Groves, it puts you through adversity, and you really know what you need to get better at. And sometimes if you have an easier slate, you can kind of go through the season and a little bit of false confidence maybe. And we all year have known it's been a grind, and we've been in like a playoff mindset. So now that we're here, this is where we've been all along, and we think that we've had our weaknesses shown to us, and it's our job to fix them and fortify them and be ready to play football.
One thing we have seen develop over the past several weeks on the offensive side has been the balance. We've already talked about this in the past few weeks, getting more guys involved, more people touching the football. But what's been really impressive is the pockets that's been created by your line for Bo Jackson and the way he's been able to play without really any mistakes and no turnovers these last few weeks. How huge has his connection with your receiving core and that front five been in picking up wins in these past few weeks and at least keeping close in those losses?
Really since the halftime of week 3, he's been phenomenal with very few mistakes. And the one he did make in the Lake Orion game was probably on us coaches more than it was on him, to be honest. So I'm really happy for him. He's a good kid. He's worked hard. And you want to see kids like that, I guess, achieve some level of success. Now I just want to see him, make a little bit of a playoff run too.
The Lakers will begin the playoffs on Friday at Novi High School, going up against the Wildcats at 7 o'clock. We'll keep you updated on how that's going to be covered in the media across our local area on civiccentertv.com/Lakersports. So now we've gone through 9 weeks of preparing for the game ahead of you and preparing for the regular season. Kind of a different beast when you're preparing for the postseason from a coach's standpoint. And what maybe changes as you're getting ready for a playoff game and trying to prepare your team for that situation versus a regular season matchup?
Well, like I said, we've already kind of been in that mindset because of the schedule we have to play just to get here. But at the same time, there's nothing to save anything for. You do have that benefit in the regular season, even though you might be, thinking like that. Now it's, any day could be your last day, and any game could be your last game. So you got to treat it as such. And there's a certain urgency that comes with that. And, it's one of the great things about sports and athletics and competition too, though.
And at this point in the season, too, do you start to see those upperclassmen on your team, those more experienced players, take on a little bit more of a coach's role in addition to your staff?
Yeah, I think we saw it the last couple of weeks with a lot of the kids, too. They kind of realize what's happening. It's always a stark realization that even a year ago when they were juniors, they saw, like, their friends going through it, but you can't really put it into perspective till it happens to you. So, yeah, we've seen that, and, it's what's going to take for us to really finish this thing the right way.
Who, if anybody, stands out in terms of those guys taking that step forward in leadership that could end up being a really big factor these next few weeks in advancing West Bloomfield hopefully through these D1 playoffs?
A lot of the seniors have stepped up. Josh Tate's been excellent all year in that regard. Elijah Durham to Dwayne Broom, Jaden Allos. You can go down the list. Like, all of them are realizing that, they got to do whatever it takes, to get us to where we want to be.
These were all guys that when we talked to them at OAA Football Media Day, when we talked to them before Week 1 against Chippewa Valley, they were making those sort of statements then. This is nothing new to these players, taking on that leadership role, teaching these younger players what they need to be able to get to playoff time and win football games right now. In terms of the younger players, what are you preaching to them as some of them go into their first playoff action of their entire careers and a really consequential game coming up on Friday night that they're going to have a big part in too?
Well, the young guys, we just tell them just to play football. Don't even think about it, because they think about the moment, they might be a little overwhelmed, and that's the last thing we want from them. Like, they're in this room for a reason. They're in our practice for a reason, and the reason is to play football. So if we didn't think they belonged here, they wouldn't be here. So try to, free them of any burden we can and just let our seniors carry us.
Do you find that they're finding this to be really cool, to be preparing for playoff football, for that win or go home mindset? How are they embracing this time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, even last night we were here for the selection show, watching in the auditorium together. There's always a certain buzz around it. And in practice today, and there's a finality to it that, like I said, urgency before a finality, however you want to phrase it, that, definitely brings the best out of us. So we hope that, we get a good showing this week and, make it more than 1 or 2 weeks in this thing.
Don't let that 4-5 record fool you. This Lakers football team is gritty and very capable of going on a very deep run in these playoffs. And if they happen to win this week, there is a chance that they could take on my old high school, Livonia Stevenson, in the next round. So I am very excited to see that potential match. But first, they have to win this week. The Lakers will be playing at Novi High School at 7 p.m. on Friday night. Head over to our website, civiccentertv.com/LakersSports for updates on how you can attend or tune in to the big game. And make sure to be on the lookout for the next installment of This Week in Laker Football. November is coming up very, very soon, but October is not over yet. And October is dedicated to raising awareness about breast cancer, promoting early detection, and supporting those affected by the disease. And here to tell us more about some of the ways you can detect breast cancer, we have doctor and a clinical professor with expertise in breast cancer, Dr. Monique Swain. Thank you so much for joining us today.
So one of the biggest issues that we faced in screening are women who have dense breasts. And so when I was in training, we had developed a system that could help us to detect cancer better in women who had denser breasts. And so some women may have heard of a 3D mammogram, or what we call digital breast tomosynthesis. And this was FDA approved in 2011, but has been growingly popular among women today. And so I do ask my clinician colleagues to make sure that their patients who have dense breasts, get a 3D mammogram or a DBT. But even later technologies that has come to the forefront is something called molecular breast imaging, or MBI. And this actually kind of is a combo between MRI and mammogram together. So the patients also receive contrast, but also the same technique as a mammogram. And it's really helped to improve detection rates in patients who have dense breasts. So we're really excited about this new technology now, and that we're using this at Henry Ford too as well.
That's amazing. So many great new technology advancements, all dedicated to helping keep people safe. That's always great to hear, Dr. Swain. And with breast cancer awareness having evolved in recent years, particularly in reaching undeserved or high-risk populations, what have you seen from that angle?
Yeah, so as far as patients, obviously, who have social determinants of health or in underserved areas, there has been a huge push to have what they call mobile mammogram. So these are for individuals who may not have insurance or may not have transportation access to get their mammogram, or have a physician to put in a requisition for them. They can now use their neighborhood mobile mammogram to get their mammogram, annually. And I think this is an excellent thing to help kind of bridge that gap in healthcare.
That is excellent and a great way to help promote more screenings and to help, again, keep that health in line. And I also want to talk about what are maybe some of the challenges you face when it comes to educating patients about the importance of these regular screenings, and how do you address those barriers?
I think some of the biggest challenges are myths that are out there, kind of what family is saying, maybe what their moms or cousins or aunts have said in the past. And I think some of those things are hard things to get through, particularly in my community, women of color. There's a lot that that they have been through experiences in the healthcare system and having that mistrust. And I think getting through those barriers and really getting, patients to trust us and know that we're really here for their best interest and we want the best for them. Unfortunately, women of color, we have a 42% higher risk of dying of breast cancer, even though we're diagnosed. Less likely than any of our counterparts. So it's really important for us to instill in them the importance of screening, and that screening is here to help them and not hurt them.
That's absolutely right. For those just joining us on Civic Center TV, we have Dr. Monique Swain, a clinical professor with expertise in breast cancer, sharing some guidance on October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month and ways to keep you happy and healthy. Now, it's not just the physical support that's important when it comes to breast cancer diagnosis. It's also the emotional and the psychological support. That plays a big role as well. And could you talk about a little bit what that does play when it comes to treatment and the recovery process for breast cancer patients?
Yeah, so at Henry Ford, we extremely value psychological support. For any patient that actually is diagnosed with breast cancer, they are referred to what we call psych-onc, because we understand the emotional toll that a cancer diagnosis can play on not just the individual, but also on their families too as well. And we realize too that emotional state can also impact not only just their success rate in terms of treatment, but just their ability to even want to go to treatment. If you're not feeling good about yourself or overwhelmed by the diagnosis, sometimes we find that patients may avoid coming to treatment, maybe miss appointments. And so we have individuals here who really understand what that is to go through, and specialists here to talk them through that and guide them through the process. So it makes it easier for them.
That's fantastic. Now, there's a new U.S. rule that's requiring mammography at centers to inform women about their breast density, a regulation that began in early September. In your experience, Dr. Swain, how has this new rule affected patient inquiries or the demand for additional screenings like an ultrasound or an MRI?
Yes, so I am really pleased that this was something that was placed as a rule, and now it gives our patients, the autonomy and empowers them to ask for the screening that they need, that's necessary for them to identify cancer in their breast. I always tell patients it's really important not only to feel empowered, but to advocate for oneself. And I think knowledge is power. If you didn't know, how do you know what to ask for? And so now that we are mandated to provide this information to patients, their breast density, it gives that patient the empowerment to ask for something that is what's best for them in order to give them the best care possible.
That is absolutely right. Now, it is important to note that it's not just women who can get breast cancer. Men can get breast cancer as well. And I want to ask, how do you approach raising awareness about male breast cancer, and especially within the medical community and the public?
Absolutely, men can get breast cancer as well. Now, the rate is not as high. Their rate is less than 1%. But absolutely, what puts men more at risk is if they have a genetic mutation, specifically BRCA2 or even BRCA1. But BRCA2 more often, it actually can increase their risk to about 7%. So it's really important for individuals that have a family history of breast cancer that not only the women get tested, but the men get tested for a genetic mutation too, because they might be a carrier of a gene like BRCA2 and not realize that. For men, it's really important that they too have what I call breast self-awareness. So if they notice something like a new lump, skin changes, nipple changes, or discharge, that they need to see their primary care immediately. Unfortunately, men are much more likely to be diagnosed at later stages because they don't know, because no one talks about it. I just recently gave a presentation last week within the community about male breast cancer as well as female breast cancer. So I think it's important to speak on it, and clinicians like myself to make everyone aware that this does exist and that men are not exempt from getting breast cancer.
That's absolutely right. Even I was a little naive on male breast cancer. I didn't realize that was a thing until maybe just a few years ago. And it's great that information like this is being made public and we're talking about it more and people are aware of symptoms and can check it out for themselves. Dr. Swain, before I let you go, as someone involved in both clinical practice and academia, how do you see research in breast cancer treatment advancing throughout the next decade?
Yeah, so my main area of expertise in terms of research is actually oncofertility. And so looking at disparities in oncofertility. And I think it's really important that not just men, but women too as well, when they get diagnosed with a cancer, not something that they asked for, they're able to have access to fertility. And fertility that, in my opinion, is paid for by our state and by our government, so that these individuals have further rights to go on to have children later. So that's where my area of focus is. But some of the research that's being done today is more looking at biologic markers in cancer and really trying to target therapies to those biologic markers. So what we can do is we can have more individuals who are living now, who are surviving past breast cancer, and really helping to bridge that gap, like I said, and women of color compared to others. So I'm hoping that these advancements come before I retire. And I really would love to see that gap in healthcare disparities close before my career ends.
That's absolutely right. It's very important to close the gap. Dr. Swain, thank you so much for your time today. Doctor and clinical professor with expertise in breast cancer, Dr. Monique Swain. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lots of great information as Breast Cancer Awareness Month comes to a close, and very important ways to make sure that you are informed and you get those mammograms as soon as possible. Lots of other great information right after this break. Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from West Bloomfield. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent of West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be 1 in a million.
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, tackling all of the biggest stories and events from right here in the 4 communities. Now, we're currently in the midst of fall, and you're starting to see those autumn leaves hitting the ground, but you might not have to rake them up just yet. There might be a lot of purposes to keeping those leaves on the ground. And here to tell us more, we have Water Resources Commissioner with Oakland County, Jim Nash, to tell us more. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Glad to have you with us. And I'm very curious about this conversation because as a kid, I've always been told once those leaves start to hit the ground, you rake them up. But you're saying that might not be necessary. So what are some of the purposes of leaving these fallen leaves?
Well, this is information from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They talk about these kind of things, and we do public education. That's one of the major things that my office works on. It's basically self-mulching because over the winter they'll break down and start to become part of the soil, and even if they're in the late spring, you rake them up and get rid of them. They've had times for the animals over the winter to winter, so they can survive. They're small insects and small animals will come out in the spring. So this is good for your gardens. It's good for your lawns, especially around the edges of lawns. That way you're keeping those healthy biomes, from the microscopic to the little critters that are running around. It's healthy for the environment, and in the long run, it's healthier for your yards.
That's very interesting. A lot of great benefits to leaving those leaves on the ground. So you talked about leaving them as like soil or a natural fertilizer. What's the difference in utilizing these leaves than it might be for some other types of fertilizer?
Well, whenever you're doing natural, you don't have to worry about ingredients put in it. You don't have to worry about where it was coming from, the costs of producing it. You're doing it yourself. It's part of nature. This is what keeps plains going. The trees, as you don't want them knee deep, but the trees going that release these leaves, it's part of nature. It's their own recovering into the soils. We have a lot of issues with soils. We're losing topsoils all over the world, and anything we can do to make sure that we're keeping those healthy biomes underneath the leaves, it's a good thing. And the less tilling you have to do, the better. All these things are better for the biome in the soils and above it.
That's absolutely right. A lot of great benefits for those soils. Jim, is there anything recently that you have learned that maybe you weren't previously aware of in terms of the benefits with these leaves?
Well, I'm always learning. I hope as long as I'm breathing, I'm learning. We're always finding new things, and this was a new, output from the agriculture department. So this is something that whenever we're seeing something that can benefit folks and we can reach out and show them how it works. This was on our Facebook page. We do a lot of other social media. And again, we do education programs from 4th and 5th graders to adults. And this is the kind of thing that we can talk about.
That's great to see, and a lot of great education opportunities, because this is certainly educating myself, and I'm sure this will educate everyone who watches this as well. So I just want to be absolutely clear with some of this. So you're saying maybe don't pick up any of those leaves throughout the fall season? Is that what you're saying?
Again, I would focus on gardens and around the edges of your yards and around the house, because it's insulating too. And around anything that can benefit from that, basically. Again, if you have 500 trees in your yard, you don't want to be knee deep in leaves, but it's good to leave some as cover on the ground. So that's basically what they're saying.
Okay, that makes sense, but that also might be bad news for some of those kids hoping to get out of those chores of raking the leaves. Sounds like they do still have some work to do. I'm speaking with Water Resources Commissioner for Oakland County, Jim Nash, talking about some of the benefits of using those fallen leaves as a natural soil to help out your lawns and your gardens at home. Now, I want to talk about maybe what happens after the fall season and after the winter season. Once that snow starts to melt, what would be the next steps to those leaves that are still on the ground?
I would say pretty much whenever you can, leave them, especially in a garden. If you're between plants, you can put these. They also help actually shield for the growth of weeds coming up in a place where you don't want them. Because it shades it and it doesn't let them get as much light, so it kind of reduces the weeds between them. And again, whenever you're doing this, because there'll be partially whatever you want to clean up off the yard in the spring, that's good for composting, because it's had a chance to already start that breakdown process. There's several different things you want to have in that kind of process. You want to have grass clippings because that's got more carbon and nutrients and leaves, and then you mix in vegetables from your house to put in that. So that's the kind of thing you can do with that in the longer term, because I would encourage everybody to do compost.
Wow, so it sounds like you're saying maybe to hold on to these leaves for as long as you can and to get as much use out of them as possible. Is that right?
Yeah, it makes for better soil for when you want to add soil in a coming year. You'll have something to use, especially with composting, but also keeping those leaves on the ground. They'll just become dirt over another year or two, and so it'll put layers of nutrient-rich dirt on top of what you already got.
That's great. It's like that old saying, one man's trash is another person's treasure, and there's always a benefit to something. Maybe once its original benefit might be past its time. So, Jim, what's it been like because you talked about some of these education programs, what's it been like to educate the greater Oakland County about some of these ways and some of these resources?
Oh, absolutely. We do, again, 4th and 5th graders, we have watershed festivals. One is for the Clinton River watershed. It's at Oakland University. The other one is for the Rouge River watershed, and that's at the Science Institute at Cranbrook. And we have, between the two, we have 2,500, 3,000 kids a year go through that. And they learn all about the environment, all about what we do, all about protecting the water resources and all those kind of things. We have stations from organizations all over the region, state, federal, nonprofit. We also do a high school program, introducing high school students to what we do as an industry and how we're protecting the environment and doing that and addressing climate change. And then for adults, we have all kinds of things. We have programs for speeches. I give library talks. I go to religious groups, libraries, civic groups. We talk about green infrastructure, all the things we're doing to address climate change. So these are the kind of things that we do for education for everybody. Basically, fourth grade to adult.
Wow, that is so many great opportunities to help get Oakland County informed. I always love to hear it. Jim, I know you're a busy guy. I got one more question for you before we let you go. Where can people go to maybe get some of this quick information so that people can be fully up to date with what to do with their lawns and with their soils?
Well, you can go to our Facebook page, Oakland County WRC. At Facebook. You can go to our website, oakgov.com/water. We have a wealth of information, anything you can think of about water, protecting the environment, green infrastructure, all the things we're doing regionally to address all these situations we have. Lead lines, affordability, all the different things that we work with every single day with communities all over the region.
So many great information, opportunities, and resources right at your fingertips. Water Resources Commissioner for Oakland County, Jim Nash, we thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Always appreciate having you too. And once again, you can get that information at oak.gov to find out more information on how to keep your lawns and your soils safe. Oakland County has had more big news happen recently, including the renewal of a very important public transportation program for veterans. This Rides on Us program was just renewed for caregivers through the September 2025 month, and that's going to be another great year for providing seniors with this transportation. And here to tell us more about this great program, we have Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. Dave, we thank you so much for joining us today, and I want to get right into it. How has the response from the veterans and the families shaped the decision to extend this program for another year?
Yeah, as I think you know, we launched it at the beginning of the summer through the end of September to see, is this something that our veterans would actually take advantage of? Is it a benefit that they need? We thought it was, but we weren't sure. But we've already given over almost 3,000 rides, free rides to our veterans to wherever they want to go, whether it's a doctor's appointment, a senior center, the grocery store, almost 3,000 rides just in that short period of time in the summer. And so, as you mentioned, through a generous grant from the state of Michigan's Veterans Affairs folks, we're now able to extend this service for a whole nother year. So this will now go till the end of next September, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
Absolutely, and this is such great news and such great things for the Oakland community. And I want to talk about what are some of the key challenges that Oakland County veterans face in terms of transportation, and how does this program affect these concerns?
They have a myriad of concerns, whether they're health challenges, whether they live in a more rural area, they have a lot of issues. But one of the issues that we sometimes encounter with trying to give our veterans benefits like this is they're reluctant to take help. They're servers. They're used to serving our country and serving their communities. They're not as anxious to take service from others. And so that's why I was really delighted to see that they took advantage of this service while we offered it. We have about 53,000 veterans in Oakland County. So this program is not just for them, but for their dependents and their families. They can all take advantage of this, and they are taking advantage of it. And so I'm delighted to see it. And as you can see on the screen, we're not talking about big buses here, although you can ride the big buses for free. But we're talking about the paratransit, smaller buses that'll pick you up at your house, take you where you need to go, take you back home for no cost.
And that's great. And you're absolutely right. And these veterans have done so much to help our country and our community. Now it's our turn to say, hey, let's help you, and let's help you with what you need for the future. So how do you see this program evolving beyond 2025 to ensure sustainable access to veterans all throughout Oakland County?
We will keep looking for money for this program. It's about $500,000 that the state gave us. So that's a lot of money, more than we have in our current budget. But we're going to continue. We're going to analyze the program, see how well it's working, see if people continue to take advantage of it. And if it does, we'll look for other funding. But the other thing I hope it teaches us is this. I mentioned that veterans are sometimes reluctant to ask for help. I want to give you a great example. We met a veteran through our Veteran Services Department, and we went out to his apartment. He had no electricity or heat in his home, and he was sleeping on his couch. And we said, sir, we can connect you to programs that can help you get your heat back on and help you get your light back on. And his response was, no, that's okay. I can handle it. I'll be okay. So hopefully this program, when they see that we're serious about it and we figure out how to reach them, it will help educate us how to message to them, how to reach them for other vital services that they need and might be reluctant to accept.
Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter is joining us right here on The Splash to talk about the This Rides on Us program in Oakland County that was just extended all the way through September of 2025 to benefit veterans and to help give them proper transportation. Now, you did mention this a little bit, Dave, about the grant you just received worth $530,000. How has that donation and that grant played a role into helping make this program even better?
Well, it's what's made it possible. We still have to reimburse the providers. SMART is the largest provider in our county, but there's a number of smaller ones, WODA, NODA, and the other providers. They need to be reimbursed. They can't afford to do these services for free. So it's what makes it possible. And we will be spending the next year looking for grants, looking for funding to continue this program, while, as I said, evaluating whether it's been cost effective. If there's ways we can enhance it or change it, we'll be evaluating. I'm a big data-driven guy. I want to see the data. How does the program work? What can we do to enhance it if we need to or change it? So we'll be looking at all those things over the next 12 months. But the great news is that for the next year, if you're a veteran or a dependent or family member of a veteran, you'll have these services for the next year.
And that's great that all of the work that Oakland County is doing to helping to ensure that this program sticks around. But I also want to talk about the ways that the community can help support further initiatives aimed at improving the quality of life for veterans, particularly in areas of transportation and social services. Could you go into detail about that a little more?
Yeah, I want to encourage a lot of our communities. We have 62 different cities, villages, and townships across the county. They all offer various senior and some veteran programs of some sort. But we have a Veterans Affairs Department in Oakland County that coordinates all of those services. So whether you work for one of our local communities or you're just a member of one of our local communities and want to know all the various services that exist, either for our veterans or we now have a senior older adult services department as well, you can call the county. And if you're a veteran, and I think you've got some of the information on the screen, but you can call us at 248-419-7984, and you can get connected to this transportation program or the other veteran services that we provide. And it's a whole host of things, including what benefits you're entitled to, funeral and death benefits, and all of the other things that our veterans are entitled to. We can help coordinate all of those services for you.
Great to hear, Dave, and glad to hear of all the work you guys are doing. I got one more question before we let you go. What partnerships with other organizations or transportation services do you envision expanding to enhance this program's reach and effectiveness in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm all about collaboration. We don't have to do it all ourselves. There are providers out there that are doing this work. So the Older People's Commission in Rochester Hills, which does seniors services, we partner with them on transportation services. Even as I said, SMART is our biggest transportation provider, but we work with WODA in the west end of the county, NODA. So we're always looking to find out what veterans organizations exist, like the VFW, the AMVETS, and the other organization. And we love to partner with those folks to help get the word out, to help to reach the veterans, because veterans tend to trust those organizations maybe more than they do the government. So we're always looking to expand those opportunities. And if there are people out there that work with a veterans organization or a senior group, for instance, that wants to partner with Oakland County, I'd encourage them to reach out because we'd love to talk to them.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they would love to talk to you as well, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us today, Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter.
Thank you so much.
Lots of great stuff to hear from Dave Coulter, and a very important and very powerful program that is still underway right here in Oakland County all the way until September 2025. Big congratulations to Oakland County for all their success and for keeping this program alive. Now, if you want to check out all of our programs and all of our interviews from today's show or our past shows, you can scan the QR code on our screen to be taken straight to civiccentertv.com to check out all of our interviews, all of our programs, and any more information that you need to see. But that is going to do it for us today on the Splash Live. I want to say a big thank you to all of our guests today. Big thank you to Kevin McIntosh for his work out on the field. And a big thank you to Tyler Kieft, Calvin Brown, and Ryan Younglove for their work at Master Control. I'm your host, Jake Schaff. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.